we're going to bring on our first guest, and her name is Amy Barrett, and she's a new author. I believe this is her debut book, but she has been doing a lot in media for many, many years. And If I Rule the World is the name of her book. And we welcome Amy Dubois Barrett to, or is it pronounced Dubois? You can let me know. We welcome you to Black Authors Matter TV.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. It's Amy Dubois Barnett.
Okay,
Um,
Dubois. Are you
yeah,
related to W.E.B. Du Bois?
I am not, but he is my namesake, so I like to pronounce my name the way he pronounced his.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yes,
All
yes.
right. And can you show a copy of your book on the screen close so the audience can
I'm
see?
not sure if it's backward for you, if it's
No,
forward,
it's
but here we
not.
go.
It's not.
Oh,
It doesn't show up backwards on Zoom when you go live. But if you
well, there
do
we go.
Facebook Live, it's backwards.
Understood. Well, here we go. Here is my debut
It
novel,
looks,
If I Ruled the World. So
it looks
excited.
very
It's also
nice.
behind me right here,
I see
but I
it
have
there.
it handy.
And it's a hardcover. Hmm?
Yes, it is. It's a
Okay.
hardcover. Yes.
And is it your debut book?
This is not my debut book. So I released an
Oh,
NAACP
that's
Image
right.
Award.
That's right. It's your debut novel.
It's my debut novel.
Okay. Mhm.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, you were nominated for an Image Award with the other book called Get Yours. Now, were you nominated for that book? Was it in the instructional category? Do you
It
know
was
what
in
the
the sort of
category was?
inspirational self-help category, I think.
Okay. All right. Because I think they have 8 categories or something like that.
I cannot remember. It was a really long time ago, if I'm honest with
Oh,
you.
what year was it?
I published the book in 2007 or 2008, and I think I was nominated the same year, so it's been a minute.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Because I have 2 books that were nominated. So that's why I asked because I wanted to know if it was the same years, maybe. Maybe our paths had even crossed.
I,
But
I,
but mine were later. So
okay, yeah, my memory's blurry. I was a precocious advice giver, apparently.
but that's great. It doesn't matter what year. That's a nomination that you can always claim. And I know I do so.
Shoot, listen, you heard me reel it off real easy. I was like my NAACP Image Award nominated book, but I'm more excited about my debut novel,
I
If I
know,
Rule the
I know.
World.
I know we like to, just discuss a little background
Yeah,
on, when
absolutely.
people come on. And so, if I rule the world, what is the storyline for the book?
Well, so If I Rule the World is inspired by my experience as an editor-in-chief, specifically editor-in-chief of Honey Magazine and Ebony Magazine. Although I use some of my experience as editor-in-chief of Teen People and deputy editor-in-chief of Harper's Bazaar in the book as well. And it's set in New York City in the late 1990s, early 2000s, at the intersection of music and the heyday of magazines and also fashion. And we follow, which is, as you know, one of the most important cultural eras of our time. And we follow the journey of my protagonist, Nikki Rose, who is a young Black editor, who is not coming of age because she's 29 when we first meet her, but she's coming of power inside of
Okay.
influential institutions where romance and friendship and love, they coexist alongside misogyny and racism in danger, because this was a dangerous time to be a woman. And so we follow Nikki as she tries to go for her dreams, but has to figure out who she's willing to become, and how she can find her voice and hold on to her very soul in the process.
So, as people will often say, some books, especially early books, can be somewhat autobiographical. So, is this somewhat autobiographical?
It is not. It is not a Romana Clay. I know
Okay.
everybody's been asking me the same question because there are
Okay.
admittedly similarities
I don't know.
between myself and my protagonist. So that's absolutely true. And I did pull maybe, I don't know, like three to, I don't know, five, sort of um, like real life anecdotes, things that actually happened to me. I pulled them into the book because I thought that they were kind of representative of the time, and everything else. But other than that, the journey of my protagonist is very different than my own journey. She's very messy. She makes a load of mistakes. I made a load of mistakes now too. Don't get me wrong. I just didn't make these mistakes.
Okay. Were they mistakes that you saw other people make in
Of
the
course,
industry?
absolutely. I mean, I definitely
Mhm.
mind things that I observed. I mind things that I saw. And it was also kind of an interesting, of course, it's a work of fiction. So there was an
Right.
imagining of, what would happen if I'd gone left instead of right, or you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And really the book is a love letter. It's a love letter to New York City. It's a love letter to magazines. It's a love letter to music and hip hop. And it's also a kind of an homage to the friends that I had in that era who did not escape as unscathed as I did.
Okay. Now you have a background in media, extensive background um, in the industry. Tell us a little bit about. Now I saw you went to Brown, and did you intend to go into the magazine industry? Was that your goal outside of once you graduated from college, or did you uh, have jobs in other fields that kind of led you into the publishing?
Well, I actually took a circuitous route into publishing. When I graduated from college, I started my career in finance. It was not my
Okay.
spiritual home. I went into the fashion industry, also not my spiritual home. I always loved writing, and so you took a bunch of courses. I moved abroad to Ireland, of all places, to build up my portfolio, and I applied to graduate school to get an MFA. And then while I was getting my MFA, I needed to eat and have shelter and stuff. So I started to work in a small way. I found a job actually in the Columbia University where I got my MFA. I found a job in their, probably now extremely defunct, bulletin board of jobs, working for a sort of startup, if you will, kind of fashion magazine. And then when I was in grad school, I won an award from the Hurston Wright Foundation for a short story that I wrote, and the person who presented me the award was the then editor-in-chief of Essence magazine, and we stayed in
Okay.
touch. And when I graduated my program, she offered me the job of fashion and beauty features editor because I'd worked in fashion, and I was working for a small fashion magazine at the time, and I just finished grad school, and so that's what started me on my path in journalism, and it just turned out that I absolutely loved it and I was good at it, and so it just became this 20 plus year career that I'm incredibly honored to have had.
Mm. So, if you were advising someone who wanted to, because the industry's changed a lot
Mhm.
uh, over the last 20 years, um, primarily everything's digital, although there are magazines still printed, but um, the industry has changed a lot. So, how would you advise someone if they wanted to enter the industry with magazines, publishing, writing, editing, or something within the industry? How would you advise them to, or
Well,
would you advise them? Would
Well, I
you?
mean, I transitioned after I left Ebony magazine. That was my last editor-in-chief job, and I actually transitioned into running the digital for some major brands. I ran digital for BET. I was chief content officer of the Griot. I ran digital as an executive vice president for Entertainment Studios, Byron Allen's company, and I was chief content officer there. So I myself transitioned away from print into digital as I watched the print industry contract, and it just didn't seem like it was going to be a viable future for me as a journalist and as a generalist. So I just was like, okay, I need to figure something else out. So, I am really good at transitions and reinvention. It's kind of what I do. I stay pivoting. I stay pivoting. Because the thing is, like, what you can guarantee in life is that, nothing's going to stay the same, and so one of the pieces of advice that I give people is um, that is to always be seeding something, meaning I'm always putting things in place for a future possibility. Once you once you need something, it's too late to start organizing it, right? So that goes for relationships too. I always tell people to start building relationships before you need them, because by the time you need a relationship, it's too late to build it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, and some of the things that I've seeded have taken decades, and you don't always see things in a transactional way. I mean, I'm pretty transparent. I'm pretty, I am who I am. If I like you, I like you. If I don't, I don't. I'm not going to build relationships with people I don't care about. But in terms of like my skills that I've seeded, like courses that I take, certifications that I've gotten, um, and the relationships I have built with people that I really care about, sometimes it takes decades, for it to come to fruition. But all of a sudden, decades later, or however long later, you're like, oh God, I really need X, Y, and Z job, resource, skill, connection, whatever it is. And you have either the skill, the certifications, or you have the relationship, at the ready. But also just for people in general going into media, even though the industry right now is under attack, I mean, there's a, horrifying, as we all know, attack on the credibility of major media, and there's even more of an attack on Black folks, specifically Black women. There's an effort to drive women and Black women, out of the workforce across multiple industries. At the same time, it's more important than ever that we bear witness to what's happening in this country. It's more important than ever that we put our perspectives and our opinions out there. And so the other thing I tell people is that there are certainly roles that still exist within legacy media, but it's also imperative to find different ways in which to get your perspective out, whether that's via Substack or Medium or, whatever is the independent platform you can also use to put your opinion forth. It's more important than ever.
Okay. What role do you see, or what influence have you seen that the emergence and growth of AI have played
In what
in the
specifically?
publishing, the digital publishing, the industry, just in general, writing? Um, a lot of articles that I've read about AI have said that some of the writing positions may be at risk of being eliminated because of AI. And
Mhm.
if you put something into ChatGPT or wherever, or even Google now, it will kick out what wording that you could potentially use for something. And a person who's not good at writing can just grab that and use it.
I think that in journalism, for articles that are not particularly evolved, or and for journal, for articles um, that are not investigative, there is a lot of risk, for writers and for editors, in part because AI can, sort of do low level, sort of basic level writing, for lots of different types of categories. You could just put in some prompts and it'll spit out something that's not particularly interesting and evolved, but is serviceable if you're, working on a platform that doesn't prioritize, best in class journalism and
Or
best practices.
or
You know,
facts.
I'm sorry.
Or facts.
Or facts, exactly, because AI lies a lot
Mhm.
of the time too.
Yeah,
So
I mean
it's
it's
very
not
problematic.
necessarily factual.
And there was
'Cause-
just an article, I think it was in the Times the other day. It was in the Times about authors even who use AI to write, like multiple kind of, romance type novels, like 50 novels in a year or something insane, which is horrifying, right? So, I think that AI definitely has its uses. I'm not going to sit here and be a Luddite and say that, no, don't use AI ever. I mean, I use AI for research all the time. And frankly, I use AI sometimes for my emails. I will write an email. I know it has a snarky tone. I give it to AI. I'm like, please fix this tone. And it'll spit back something that's like very collaborative and nice. So, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I use it too, but it's true that, there is a real vulnerability and a risk of kind of the sort of um uh you know a broad reduction in quality, of journalism and of writing overall if AI becomes more prevalent.
And I think I agree with you on that. Also, I noticed there is a cultural bias in AI, and I don't use it often.
Hmm.
Sometimes it will kick something out without me asking it to kick something out. But there is a cultural bias in that our the way we may express something culturally is not there.
Oh, exactly. Sometimes you'll ask it to like do something that's AAVE, and it'll come back with some shucking and jiving, and you're like, okay, never mind.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not, and it's not a substitute for humans.
No,
But it
100%. It is not.
it is used by people who uh, are lazy. I mean, it's some people just want to do something fast. They don't want to do the work. They want to do quick. I'll just share one thing. I don't know if you're aware of an author named Brenda Jackson. She's written a lot of. She's big in the romance category. She's written
Mhm.
150 books. A black woman. She's been around for a long time. She started in the early 90s, I think. But she posted something a week and a half ago about three books that were out there released that had
Mhm.
her name on them that weren't her books. People were
Mhm.
claiming that they were her books. And so if they upload it to KDP, Amazon, and put it out there, they can make money because she has such a broad audience and they might not know it's not really her.
Right. No, exactly. I mean, AI is, you know, there are a lot of uses for AI. And what we don't want to do is dismiss it entirely because if Black folks don't use AI, we will fall behind.
Mm-hmm.
And we do not want to do that, right? Because folks are out here using AI in many different ways.
Yes.
And so, what I'm not going to do is say that there are no uses for it, but in a creative space, it's abysmal, and it absolutely signals, the potential sort of destruction of all we hold dear, as authors, if that kind of usage becomes more prevalent.
Yeah, it's no imagination there.
Yeah.
It's not
Well, it's just
original.
a
Collecting
compilation, if
what's
you will, of
already out there.
learnings. Right.
Right.
Exactly.
It's collecting what's already out there.
Right. It's not creative. It's not advancing art. It's just sort of,
No,
it's not
no,
advancing art. It's
no.
not innovative.
Right.
Right.
So, tell us a little bit more about If I Rule the World in terms of how are the readers, audience responding to it? When did it come out exactly?
So my novel came out January 27th. So we are in week
Okay, three, right?
three. So yes,
Three.
exactly. Week three.
Okay,
All important week three.
okay. And I saw
The
some things on social media. I think when you first, maybe your first appearances, your book signings or
Mhm.
something. It was some kind of event.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the reception has been amazing. I've gotten a lot of support from everybody from my Delta Sigma Theta sorors, to people who have been following my career since Ebony and Honey, to folks who are interested in this particular era. I mean, this is at this point we're hearing a lot about this era in the news and with the reckoning, right? All pun intended on TV. And so, we're hearing a lot more about, how complex this era was, particularly for ambitious Black women. And so I thought it was very important to write the story of one such woman or write about that era from a female perspective so people could really understand what it felt like to have to navigate the levels of misogyny and sexual violence um, and racism, as an ambitious, smart Black woman. And yeah, I mean, the reception has been great to the point that I have a television, a development deal for the television adaptation of the book with Lee Daniels, set up at Hulu. So,
Oh,
the reception has been
great.
tremendous. Yeah, I've been very, very, very fortunate. And also I
Well,
worked my ass off.
hard work is its own reward.
Ma'am,
Uh,
I have been working over
no
here. People,
substitute.
people don't know how hard this is. People do not know.
So you have a great title, by the way. Now that you picked the title.
It's funny, I did, but the original title of my novel was Sugar, which is the magazine that my protagonist eventually runs. And so I actually started this book in my 30s, um, when I was still editor-in-chief of Teen People. And then I put it down for, over for 15 years or more, because I just didn't have the creative bandwidth to finish it while I was, doing all had this career in media. And then when I picked it back up, in a conversation with my editor, she encouraged me to kind of rethink the title because I was so like stubborn about it. I was like, no, it's called Sugar. And she really encouraged me to rethink it and come up with something that was like more reflective of the vibe of the book. And so I was like, okay, fine. And then I just, I started thinking about song titles because there's so much music in the book and it's so adjacent to the music industry, the storyline. And of course, Nas, this is one of the most iconic songs of that era. And there's a little if you know, you know moment because, of course, Lauryn Hill is on this track, If I Ruled the World. And Lauryn Hill was the first cover subject of Honey magazine, which was my first job as editor in chief. So, little if you know, you know moment.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you have some things going on there where you're pulling in um, things that happen to you. I don't know what that's called, but you're able to insert that into the storyline of the book. Some
Right.
things
Although
that happen.
it's not at all in the storyline of the book. It's just a sort of a little dog whistle if you know, you know moment.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's not in the book at all. Again,
Oh,
it's
okay.
not, it's not I'm nervous about saying it's not my story too much because I don't want to veer into thou doth protest too much territory, but it really is a work of fiction.
So, is this it for you as far as your debut novel? Did you get a two-book deal to do a follow-on, or this it for right now?
No, I actually, when my novel went to auction, I got a two-book deal with Flatiron. And so
Okay.
I have a second novel in the works. It is not a sequel, though.
Okay.
Um,
It's a standalone.
yes, it's a standalone novel.
Hmm.
My second novel is about a divorce concierge, and that is somebody who helps women, navigate the divorce process and then rebuild their lives afterward. And so my protagonist is building her agency as a divorce concierge as she's dealing with the ramifications of her own divorce and looking for love the second time around.
Oh, okay. So again, strong female main
I love a
character.
strong female protagonist. I don't know
Yeah.
if I'll ever write a book that doesn't have a strong female protagonist. It's sort of where my sweet spot.
Yeah. So, where are you going next on your tour? Like where did
So
it start?
I'm going to be in Philadelphia on February 24th,
Okay.
and then I will be back in at the Barnes and Noble City Center. And then I will be back in New York City. There's an event that Black Girls Rock and Women in Media are putting together for me on the 26th of February in New York City. And then after that, I've got a lot of virtual events. So I love to do book clubs. If anybody has a book club and they want me to drop in, my book is a great book club read, and I would love to do that. Or I can, come see you if you're in the California region or anywhere, depending on, what that looks like. I have a few additional events planned like in the summer, but things are sort of kind of coming into my inbox right now. So we'll see how it shapes up.
Okay. Now, are you from New York originally?
So I'm from New York because I lived there most of my life. My personal theory is wherever you hit puberty is where you're from. But technically, I've lived in 13 cities on three continents, and I was born
Oh,
in Chicago.
oh, okay.
Mhm.
Wow. And the other continents are, I'm going to guess Europe is one.
Yes, I've lived in two European countries, and I also lived in India.
Oh, okay. Now, did were you in those places because of your career? Like, were you writing there, editing there,
So I was in
doing
India as
media?
a child because my parents brought me over because they were doing their respective PhD dissertation research in India, and so they brought me over with
Oh,
them.
oh,
And
okay.
then I was in uh, France multiple times because long story short, went to French school, majored in French, lived there multiple times, worked from France kind of recently. And then I was in Ireland actually for about a year, a little over a year, studying because they've got an amazing literary tradition there. And so I
Hmm.
was studying literature and building my portfolio to apply to grad school.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a whole thing about Irish writers.
Yes.
Um, I remember from school, but I haven't read any of them of late. just
Right,
because
right.
there's so much Black literature now. Um, we used to have a bookstore for 10 years, and we started our business in December of 98 online selling African American books. So it was
Mhm.
um, kind of a Black Amazon.
Oh, wow.
And it's a whole different world now in books, largely
Mhm.
because of the ease of self publishing.
Mm.
Because before then, self publishing wasn't a thing. I mean,
Right, right,
and it was difficult to do a professional product
right,
self published then,
right,
but now that whole world has opened up. So there's so many books that, and some people are doing hybrid. You know, they're self publishing and there was a traditional publisher,
right.
something that wasn't available before. When at
Um,
first they used not let you do that, but then I
right.
guess they figured they had to.
I
They
mean,
had to make
I
money.
know, I don't, I know so little about self-publishing. And I know there are some great, pieces of work that are coming out of the self-publishing process. But I just, I really like working with an editor. What can I say? I really appreciate that kind of partnership that you have with a really good editor. And I just know that my editor at Flatiron made my book so much better. I mean, she was an amazing partner. So I would have really felt the lack of that. I personally believe everybody needs an editor. I don't care what kind of a writer you are. I
Oh
don't care how
no,
good you are.
every book needs to be edited.
Yeah, yeah. I
Every
believe
book.
that.
And
Yeah.
and if it's not, it's obvious.
That's all I'm trying to
Immediately.
say. You can see it.
Immediately.
You're like, ooh, that word is duped. Like, you can tell, like, you can tell right away when like people just dupe words or like, sentences in a row. You're like, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. You can't tell an unedited book. Well,
Hmm.
show us the cover of your book once again, so people can go out and get it. If I Rule the World, and I like that it's very colorful, and there's a strong woman in the background.
You know what I mean? I appreciate you. I know my debut novel, If I Ruled the World, inspired by my experience as editor-in-chief of Honey Magazine and Ebony Magazine, set in New York City, late 1990s, early 2000s, at the intersection of music and magazines. And, it is a juicy book. It's a fun read. It's a page turner, but I also have very serious things to say about Black women's empowerment, love, and finding your voice.
Okay, well, Amy, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV, and continued success with your book
I
and
appreciate
all
you.
the
Thank you
other
so much.
things you're doing.
I appreciate you for having me. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Bye.
Good night.